Hello and welcome to Trashy, where we take a dumpster dive on this week's garbage people and look at all the trashiest news stories. My name is Erica and I'm your host.
My name is Cassandra and I'm your other host. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Oh, wow. Right when I said that, like a few of the leaves on my fiddle leaf just fell off. How creepy.
Ooh.
Spooky. How are you on this frightful day?
You know, I'm okay. I truly had something out of a horror movie happen to me
Okay.
this weekend.
Uh-huh.
I went to a sample sale,
Oh.
which is scary enough. But if there's one thing I'm meant to do in this world, I was built for a sample sale. I'm a boxed out. Like if Susan and I reach for the same blouse,
Yeah.
bitch, you're on the floor. Like kadoosh. I'm
Dropped.
getting hurt. Dropped. You're a size 6 and I'm a 12. Doesn't matter. I want the skirt. I'm coming away with it. Like I'm just built.
Sure.
So I went with Winston's sister-in-law, my friend Anna, and so I made a mistake. I wear a sweatshirt. I'm a little bit too warm.
Uh-huh.
Take a lot of vitamins, a lot of pills just to live, and I ate a very small breakfast because we were going to lunch afterwards because you got to get to these samples early.
Sure.
Take my all my vitamins and pills, which was like dozens almost practically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat a very big breakfast. And so I'm wearing a sweatshirt inside of this warehouse. Classic mistake. My fault, right? I'm wearing a mask. Obviously, safety first.
You're one of the few.
One of the few, of course.
I don't wear masks anymore, so. Hey, but you know what? We welcome all types here.
All types welcome. Due to your personal preference,
Sure.
I start getting a little warm and I'm like, oh, I'm just in a sweatshirt, obviously. Well, then I start going, oh, is my tummy rumbling? No, I'm fine. And then I go, and I need you to hold my sack of clothing I'm about to buy. And I throw up in my mouth twice. And I'm like, okay, you're headed out the door. You've managed it. You're fine.
Full blown throw up in your mouth?
Full blown, but I've contained it to my mouth.
Wow.
My foot crosses the door, the threshold of the door to the sidewalk. I overflow a mask with, like, as soon as I got out of the warehouse, I overflowed a mask with liquid, just liquid, not, but then I see, so I'm ripping the mask off as fast as I can as to not contain it. Oh, it was like The Exorcist. It was horrible. It was horrifying.
Yeah.
just projectile vomiting liquid, like yellow, bright yellow because of these vitamins.
Vitamins, man. Brutal.
Like 10 a.m. on a Saturday in Beverly Hills, looking like a ragamuffin. But then I'm seeing like and I'm like trying to count. I'm like, well, what vitamin is that? Because I have to retake it because if I don't have it in me, I'm not going to feel. It was horrifying. So then I stepped to the threshold. I don't have my purse because they make you check your purse at these things. So I looked to the doorman who we checked our purse.
To check your purse?
Yeah,
so you
because
don't
they don't want you to steal. So I'm like, sir, do you have any paper towels? He's like,
God.
oh yeah. And he just like extends them like his hand out, but he doesn't, but we're still like 12, 15 feet away from each other. And I go, can you toss them? I don't want to step back into the warehouse with my like horrifying. And he's like, oh, and he soon picks together what's happened. And he's like, oh, yeah. Tosses them out the door to me. Trash bucket. It was humiliating. And so
what a effective way to get all of the best clothing.
Oh yeah, I was like,
to be puke girl.
Yeah, bitch, we're going for the same dress. I'm puke girl.
Like, oh, did you not show up early enough to get here before the front threshold was covered in vomit? Sorry about your bad luck.
Yeah, it was. And then he offered me some water and we, cleaned it all up. But then I went back, but my mask is trash. So then I'm just free facing it, free balling it to the world.
Well,
and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine.
Wow. I'm sorry that happened. That's gross.
It was truly like something out of a horror movie or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Yeah.
Lots of horror. It's the time of year for a horror movie,
It really is. Yeah. What's going on with you?
It's so weird. I was about to ask you why you were trash, because I don't really have much going on that's pleasant to talk about. Oh, I keep getting like, I'm sorry. We might have to pause. My apartment is like really cold.
Oh, oh.
Hello and welcome to my favorite trash can, where we talk about all kinds of trashy crime. My name is Cassandra, and I am your host.
And my name is Erica, and I'm your other host.
Erica, let's hop right into it. I hear that you have brought a crime for me today.
Oh my goodness, Cass. I can't wait to tell you about this episode of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history.
And the annals?
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 What is that? With ANNALS?
Annals.
Annals, right?
A record of events year by year. You got it, girl. All right.
The deed that will live in forever
Annal-
in the annals of infamy. Historical records. Yeah.
Anal me up. Let's do some anal.
Okay. So the story has been put together through a lone survivor's recount and other eyewitness accounts. There's no police records of this crime.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My sources today are a Texas Monthly article and an episode of I Survived told by Sally Hardesty.
Okay.
So in August 1973, there was a series of grave robbings happening in a town of Newt in Myrtle County, Texas. So there had been at least a dozen empty crypts, body desecrations, and suspected to be linked to the elements outside of the state of Texas. So nobody knew what was going on, but I mean, people were like taken out of their graves. There were like mashups of bodies put together. It was just horrifying, right?
Okay.
So on August 18th, 1973, five youths, Sally, paraplegic, wheelchair-bound brother Franklin, their friends Jerry, Kirk, and Pam, ages approximately 17 to 21, are traveling in a green Ford Ecoline van to the Newt Cemetery to check on the status of the Hardesty's grandfather's gravesite at the Greenleaf Cemetery. They departed their hometown around like 11 a.m., traveling on Farm to Market Road 79, and the day started off unusually when Franklin had to stop in a bathroom break on the side of the road, and his wheelchair slipped and he fell down a hill, completely disorientating him and slightly damaging his wheelchair.
Oh.
It's like so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually arrived at the cemetery around like 12:47, and Sally was able to confirm with locals and the town sheriff and like see the gravesite of her grandpa. It had not been disturbed. Like, thank God, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
And they're going at night?
No, this is during the day. So
Okay,
12:47
okay.
p.m. Yeah.
Okay.
So the crew travels on and they discover like a really bad smell that they're driving through. And then Franklin realizes that they're actually driving past the slaughterhouse that their grandpa used to sell his cattle at. So,
Oh.
yeah. So at 1:27 p.m. And again, these are mostly approximate due to like witness testimonies.
Of
Like we
course,
don't
of
have like a
course.
specific timeline. Yeah.
Totally.
So they spot a hitchhiker on the side of the road. And so, according to the reports, like the group kind of debated amongst themselves whether they should stop and pick up the hitchhiker, citing like, it was heat. I mean, it's August in South Texas. It's like
And this is the 70s too.
70s, right?
So
This is like a
hitchhiking,
culture
yeah.
of like normalcy, kind of,
Uh-huh.
So they were like, it's hot, but he was like kind of weird looking, but they were like, maybe he works at the slaughterhouse and he smells weird. This is like pros and cons were being debated, but they were like ultimately good souls. So they decided to pick him up.
What kind of
But
car were they in?
they were
Must
in
have
like
been
a green,
van or something,
like a
right?
van, like one of those like sliding door Ecoline, not like a VW van, but like the Ford
Right.
version of the VW vans. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's like really tense 10-minute ride ensues. So the hitchhiker reveals he doesn't work at the slaughterhouse, but his brother and grandfather work there, and his family has always been in meat. So the hitchhiker takes out a camera, a Polaroid camera, out of his little pouch and reveals that he has photos of like slaughtered animals and and then tells the group like how to make head cheese from the animals.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
And so,
that's a thing.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like some people like head
Polaroids of dead
cheese.
animals, no, but head cheese is a thing.
Yeah, like, oh, here's a Polaroid of my sweetheart or my alive dog, but not,
Oh,
dead
it's like
pigs and cows.
dogs.
No, it was like pigs and
Oh,
and
okay, okay,
cows, but
okay,
like,
okay.
yeah, right?
Uh-huh.
So Franklin was using his pocket knife to clean his fingernails. And so the hitchhiker lunges at the knife and takes it out of Franklin's hand. And he proceeds to then cut his own hand very deeply while just laughing. And he then just hands the knife back to him without confrontation. And he's like, "Oh, you like knives?" And he pulls out a large switchblade from his own boots. He
Ugh.
then takes a photo of Franklin himself and asks the group to take him to his house and invites the group to dinner. And they're like, no, they decline his invitation and they ask Franklin to then he asks Franklin, pay him for the photo. And things
Is he
get
just
really
like bleeding in the car?
just bleeding, hand just bleeding,
Oh my God.
demanding like $2 for the photo. And, things start to get tense and a quarrel breaks out. And so he's like, pay me for this. And Franklin's like, no, I don't want that photo, no, man. Well, then the hitchhiker sets a small fire of the photo of Franklin. And then he
In the
cuts
car?
in the car, in the van. He then cuts Franklin's arms with the knife. And so the group kicks him out and he chases the van. It's just a very unsettling moment for the group. They're just rattled. Obviously, they had to visit a gravestone. It's
I feel
been
like
a
I'd want to
weird
buy the
day.
photo just so that this creepy guy didn't have it.
But that's just that weird politeness that we feel sometimes. I know it's what do you do in that situation? I don't know.
You don't pick up a hitchhiker. It's not the
Yeah,
70s.
number one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the van pulls up to this rural Gulf gas station a little bit after, but the state gas station's out of gas till later in the day or early the next day, the proprietor tells them.
Ugh.
And so the,
Fucking small
witnesses
towns.
say, yeah, there's witnesses say they inquired about Franklin's grandfather's house and the location in the area, and they kind of describe it, and then they pick up some barbecue from the area.
Mhm.
And they tell them loosely where they think the house could have been. And so they arrive at the grandfather's old broken down property. This gorgeous old 2-story house that's kind of been run down where he used to have his farm. And they discover that when they're leaving the gas station without any gas, that there's been the hitchhiker when he was chasing the van, left this bloody handprint on the side of the van. It's ugh, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So they get to the house, they're exploring. Well, Franklin doesn't have any access to the house because he's in a wheelchair, and they go upstairs. It's kind of a bummer. So Pam and Kirk, two of the kids, are dating, and they decide to go to the old swimming hole in the property. And
Yeah.
so, Franklin tells them where to go, it's down this path, down these sheds. And so they're headed to the swimming hole, but then they hear a motor running, and they're like, oh, well, these people, if we hear a motor, they might have gas that we could exchange something for, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So they approach this old barn, hoping to find some gas. And then Kirk sees a bunch of cars and a generator. And so they walk up to the main house. And this, unfortunately, this would prove to be one of their biggest mistakes in this horrific tragedy. So Pam decides to hang out outside on a swing, and Kirk opens the door, knocks after several times, and hears a pig squealing. So he enters the house, and then he sees in the front entryway, there's this closet that's open with several animal, hunters would have heads mounted and things like that.
Yeah.
And so he enters the closet, and all of a sudden a figure comes out and hits him with a hammer on the head.
Oof.
Yeah. So the perpetrator closes the door, takes Kirk inside and closes the door. And so, Pam sits outside for a little bit and is pretty distressed by his lack of response. So she enters the house herself, calling for Kirk. So,
Girl.
yeah. So she trips walking into the living room, and then she
Naturally.
discovers it's full of feathers, teeth, animal bones, and live chickens. Right. So she
Ugh.
attempts to leave, but the same person that grabbed Kirk earlier
Uh-huh.
leaves the closet, grabs her just as she crosses out of the doorway to leave. And then he drags her back into the house, into that closet of horrors.
Oh my God.
Okay, so trigger warning for anyone that doesn't like, ultra violence. He then puts Pam on a meat hook, and she's forced to watch him dismember Kirk with a chainsaw.
On a meat hook?
On a meat hook. Like she's just like a cow or something.
How?
Like, he's so strong. He's like so big.
Yeah, but
and
like,
strong.
what is she like tied up to it, or is it like going through her skin?
Like going through her, like through her abdomen.
Whoa.
Yeah. So she's just like suspended there, having to look at it. There's no other. Yeah.
And this is a new person who's torturing them?
This is the same guy. Yeah. The guy.
It's the hitchhiker.
No.
Oh.
So, yeah. New person. Yeah.
Whoa. Fucked up town.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's getting late in the evening, and Jerry, who is Sally's boyfriend, decides to walk to the watering hole himself, leaving siblings Sally and Franklin by the van in the house, their grandfather's house. So details and times get kind of fuzzy at this point because we don't have an approximation due to like the nature of these crimes. But Jerry then discovers this like house of horrors and enters. He walks into the kitchens and hears rumblings.
What are everyone entering for? Why is everyone just breaking into this house?
It's like they're teenagers in the 70s. It's like they hadn't heard of like danger yet,
Wild West out there in the 70s. Just
it's
no one's locking doors.
No one's locking doors. It's like we just gotten out of the 60s, like free love of the 60s. They're in the South. They're in Texas, where people are just more like, all get along,
Y'all get along now.
Oh, y'all get along now. Come on in.
You hear? Yeah.
Yeah. So he enters the kitchen, right? And he hears this rumbling, knocking coming from inside of a deep freezer, like one of those flat, big freezers.
Uh-huh.
He opens it and he sees Pam laying inside of it. So she pops up, though. She's still alive somehow.
Oh, shit.
But then the perpetrator from earlier pops into the kitchen and smashes his head with a hammer.
Ugh, gotta watch out for that hammer.
It's horrifying. So we don't know, what's happened. So several hours without seeing or hearing from their friends, it's now dark. Sally and Franklin are like, we're going to have to go back to town. Like, we have to go back to that gas station. We have to do something. We haven't heard from our friends. They're honking the horn on the van. They're calling for their friends. And then they discover the keys aren't in the van. So Kirk, Pam, or Jerry have taken the keys to the van. So they're essentially stranded.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So they start to wander. So Sally's pushing Franklin's wheelchair, and they see the light and hear the generator that the other, kids had seen earlier. Yeah. So they move closer and closer to the house. So they're in the woods at the pathway to the house. And all of a sudden, Franklin is attacked with the chainsaw by the perpetrator from earlier, cutting directly into his chest, while Sally is pushed aside and watches on in like total distress. And like, to hear her tell the story in this I Survived episode, it's just, this is her only sibling in the world. She's always felt protective over him. He's been a paraplegic his whole life. Like, yeah. So Sally takes off through the forest and is run. Well, the whole time this guy's chasing her with a chainsaw, but he's wearing some type of mask on his face. So she can't even, we don't even see like his actual facial features.
Okay.
So it's nighttime. She's running through a forest she doesn't know, being chased by somebody with a chainsaw. And it's like thick brush forest, and she's getting caught. So she sees a house with a light on, and she runs, and she's like, oh my God, finally, somebody.
No way. This hasn't proved well for anybody.
She doesn't realize she's just entered this guy's house.
Yeah. Oh no.
She runs in, locks the front door, runs upstairs, and what does she find? Like a near, like it looks like a corpse, but it's just a decrepit old man in a rocking chair. Ugh. Begging him for help. And then she, is not getting a response from him, and she looks over to her side and sees that there's essentially an almost rotted corpse of a dead woman in a dress in the other chair. And she's like, oh my God, what's happening here? So she decides to leave this attic that she's run up to. The whole time, though, this guy is cutting down the front door with his chainsaw. So she
Sure.
starts running down the stairs. He runs up
He
the
has to
stair.
cut through the chainsaw or the front door, even though it was his house.
Well, she locked the door on the way in.
Oh, and he doesn't have his keys. He just has his chainsaw.
It just has a chainsaw, which is, to
Uh,
be fair, almost a universal key, you know?
totally.
Yeah. So they meet on the staircase. She runs back upstairs, jumps out of a window to escape him.
Okay.
But that's not where the story ends. So she runs. She's being pursued by this guy, his chainsaw, back through the forest. She runs and runs and runs. And eventually she runs all the way back to the gas station that they were at earlier in the day.
Oh, wow.
And so they see the proprietor of the gas station that she's spoken to earlier. And she flings herself inside of the little, the gas station. And she's like, shut the door, shut the door. And he does. He tries to calm her down. She's explaining the situation, but she's hysterical. Nothing makes sense to him because, of course, he hasn't seen any of this. So she's like, lock the door, call the cops. He's done this and this. And so he's like, listen, there's no phone here.
Ugh.
We're going to have to get in my truck and drive
no
all
gas,
the way
no phone.
no gas,
What
no
the hell's the
phone.
point of this place?
I mean, it's the 70s. It's
Yeah,
like
man,
rural
people are
Texas. It
fucking
might as well be
wild.
the 1920s,
Yeah, you're off the grid.
So he's like, we're gonna have to get in my truck and we're gonna have to drive over to Childress, like one of the towns over. And so he goes to get his truck, right?
Uh-huh.
He leaves, but he leaves the door wide open. And so
What?
Sally's sitting there losing her
The truck
mind.
door?
No, the door to this, like the gas station that she's in.
Oh.
So she's just sitting there thinking at any moment this guy's gonna run in with a chainsaw, but she doesn't hear anything, but still she's like losing it. So he pulls up with the truck, but he walks in, the gas station owner, but he has a big, like one of those like big potato sacks
Oh no.
and string. And
Oh
so she
no.
grabs like a knife and he starts telling her to like just cooperate and you'll have no trouble. And so Sally's like, no one is safe. I have no ally.
Fuck
right?
this town.
So he then he grabs a broom and lunges at her, knocking the knife out of her hand. Ugh. So he smacks her starts hitting her with the broom, not like to knock her, just to kind of like disarm her. And like, I mean, if you've just been chased by a chainsaw and somebody just starts kind of like annoyingly hitting you with a broom, I'd be like, God damn it, quit.
Like, can I fucking live? Yeah.
Can I live a second? I'm trying to process some trauma.
Oh my God.
He smacks her around with his broom. He like eventually hits her enough to where he can like tie her up. He gags her with a rag.
Ugh.
Like she cannot catch a break. So
No.
he drags her to the truck and begins to drive her until he runs into somebody on the road. And it's the hitchhiker. Right? So the gas station attendant, like the owner, stops and then he gets out and he smacks him around and scolds him for almost getting caught and tells him to stay away from graveyards.
Almost getting caught.
They know each other.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So then he drives up to none other than the house where Sally's
the chainsaw's house
the
or
chainsaw
the grandpa's house. Okay.
Yeah. So this is like Sally's nightmare house, right?
Yeah.
So she's drugged into the house and Sally begins to piece together that the hitchhiker, the chainsaw guy, and the gas station owner are all brothers.
Ew.
Yeah. Like a whole family of like nitwits, right? Like,
yeah.
But they're like really poor.
Okay.
Extremely disenfranchised, possessing like no skills besides being able to butcher cattle. So when the slaughterhouse moved from manually cutting to like these more mechanical ways and like the airsoft guns of like killing cattle, like essentially like they were ran out of a job. And so this family's been like so poor for so long, essentially they could only afford to kill what they eat.
Ew.
I mean, like eat what they kill, essentially. You know?
Wait, so they probably never have gas.
They probably never have gas. ... And
oh
also,
my God.
They buy barbecue. He's always like, oh, we got real good barbecue. And then
No.
what is he selling at the, I know, we still don't, I know, so many questions, right?
Yeah.
So, everyone's like kind of taunting her. So the family sits down Sally passes out. She comes to, and the family, in quotations, is sitting at dinner. The hitchhiker and chainsaw have retrieved Grandpa in the attic,
Oh.
right? The older man. So then they cut Sally's finger, and Grandpa, becomes alive and like sucks on her finger. So
Oh
she's
my
tied to a chair.
God.
This old man's like
Doesn't
sustaining
she
on
have
this.
like 3 or 4 dead friends that they can choose from?
Well, we don't know where they are. They might be dinner at that point.
Oh my God. But like,
Yeah.
yuck.
Yeah. So it's the two brothers, Grandpa, and then we see the chainsaw guy is now no longer in his like butcher outfit and like weird mask. He has another mask on that has like women's makeup and a dress on and a wig.
What?
I can't even begin to unpack and like, yeah. So they're gonna have dinner, but then they start taunting the older brother, the gas station guy, that he's not a killer, he's just a cook. And obviously the hitchhiker and the chainsaw guy are the guys that are like the killers. And so Sally's like, I got to get the fuck out of here,
Yeah.
So they get this idea that they're gonna let Grandpa, who's the best at killing, the best killer there ever was, according to their quotes, have his turn at murdering Sally, right?
Even though he's like decrepit and barely
I
like
mean,
functioning.
it looks like a human corpse. It's like horrifying. These like the way she describes it.
Okay.
So they drag her tied to a chair over to Grandpa and put a hammer in his hand. Well, it falls out. They put it again. It falls right out. Like he can't keep a grip on anything. Like he doesn't have grip. Like it's like they blew air into like a skeleton or something.
We need to let Grandpa go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, guys, we need to let Grandpa have some peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're hollering and hooting and they're trying to like hamp Grandpa up, and everyone's just yelling at each other, the three brothers. And in all this chaos, Sally gets free and she jumps out of a window and starts to escape. She's limping to the road.
She gets free because they keep fucking around with this
because
old
they
man
start
with the
fighting
hammer?
amongst themselves, and it's just chaos.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
she again jumps out of a window for the second time in the night.
Yeah.
And is limping down the road. So the chainsaw guy, the hitchhiker, starts chasing her up the road. Like she makes it to the highway. She makes it to the road, and the hitchhiker is run over by a big red semi truck. Thank God, right?
Yes.
So the truck driver stops, obviously, because he's like, oh my God, I just hit a guy. But then he sees Sally completely covered in blood. And he's like, oh my God, get in my cab. Well, then right up the road comes Chainsaw. So he starts cutting into the door. And so Sally and the truck driver jump out the other side and start running. Well, the truck driver, thank God, grabbed a wrench on his way out, like he was in his cab of his car. He then ends up throwing it at this like chainsaw guy, hits him in the head. It knocked him off balance just enough where he fell back, but then dropped the chainsaw and it cuts his own leg. Right? So at this same, like he's down, but then a blue short cab pickup truck drives up. Sally jumps in the cab of the truck and is just like frightened, like screaming in like frightened joy, right? And so she sees the last thing she sees before she, the last image she ever sees of this chainsaw was him like cutting his chainsaw. It's like dawn at this point. She's been there all night and he's just like revving his chainsaw into the air. And so the semi truck driver and the short cab driver, the blue truck driver, accompany Sally to the Newt Sheriff Department to make a report. Of course, law enforcement immediately descends onto the property, but they find no trace of the family. Her brother, her friends' bodies were never found.
Whoa.
So the police say they found no killers, no victims, no facts, no crime. So the perpetrator is now known as Leatherface, and he has never been caught to this day. And the incident is forever known colloquially as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wow. They should make that into a movie.
Right? It's like cinematic almost.
Totally, totally, totally.
Yeah.
That's crazy, Erica.
Yeah. I mean, and just to hear Sally tell the story and then reading the Texas Monthly article written by Skip
Mm-hmm.
Collingsworth, like, it's so vivid. I feel like I'm there with her, seeing it, and just thinking about this like tall, lumbering, nonverbal thing, this leather face. Oh, I don't know. I just have the
Yikes.
chills. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I have a trash crime for you too.
Oh my God. Okay. I can't wait. Tell me. Tell me.
So my sources for this are from a town realtor, Jane Butterfield, and also some diary entries, including a suicide note.
Oh my God.
Okay. There's not, unfortunately, there was no law enforcement involved in this one as well.
Oh
So
wow.
this takes place in 1988. And it's a pretty crazy one about a family from New York who bought some property in Connecticut. But let me just tell you some backstory first.
Okay.
So there was a couple, Adam and Barbara Maitland, and they owned this hardware store and a fixer-upper house in Winter River, Connecticut, right? And this was like a hot property. Like the town's realtor was constantly getting them to she kept wanting them to sell this house. Like, this house is too big for you. It's better suited for a family, like things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Which was like kind of messed up because the Maitlands had previously had an unsuccessful pregnancy and then they had intentions to, get pregnant again.
Oh God.
So,
Yeah.
so um sadly, Adam and Barbara died suddenly in a car accident. The car flew off a bridge and they drowned.
Oh no.
Right? So that is the backstory, but that brings us to then our family, the family from New York. So you have the dad, his name is Charles Dietz, and he's kind of like a money guy, okay? Like
Okay.
pitches investments, like
Oh,
to
like a
even
finance bro
yeah,
kind
like
of.
to even richer people kind of thing. So he moves his whole family. He's got one kid, Lydia, and then he's got his wife, Delia, and wants to move them to Winter River for like a more relaxing lifestyle, like let's leave the city kind of thing. Lydia is like, a teenager. She's like very goth, just like going through that stage in her life. This is the late 80s. And then Delia, his wife, and Lydia's stepmom, is an amateur sculptor in New York and kind of like a art scene socialite.
Ooh, yeah.
So they
Wow.
are very much not into this move to the country, but Charles
Ugh,
insists.
yeah.
So in order to, I guess, make the transition.
Oh my God, is something haunted?
No, Taylor's knocking shit over.
Oh,
Delia, the
yeah.
wife, is like,
Okay.
I need to make this more livable for me. And so she enlists the help of her friend Otho from New York. Otho is like interior designer or whatever.
Okay.
And they plan to change every room in the house. So they're going through the house, whatever. They find in the closet the wedding clothes
Oh my God.
from the previous owners, which we know were Adam and Barbara Maitland. So they find the wedding clothes but like doesn't phase them, whatever. They kind of just make fun of it and they move on. They are planning out different color palettes and everything for the house. And Charles, the husband, is like, please just leave everything in the study the way it is, like it, because he didn't like that they were changing everything anyways. Like he wanted to relax and this wasn't relaxing. So they leave the study alone and then they try to go up to the attic and the attic is locked. So
Oh
they're
my
like,
God.
okay.
Yeah.
Nobody has a key except the realtor. So they're like, let's reach out to the realtor and get the key. And the realtor does come eventually when they're doing construction, but she gives the key to Lydia, who's
The
outside.
teenager?
The teenager. She's like, hey, just give this to your dad, whatever. So as soon as these renovations start on the house, Lydia, the teenager, is starting to see things. She sees people in the window and she's starting to hear things. And so Lydia is a photographer. At one point in the middle of the night, Lydia hears like moaning and stuff. And so she's like thinking that it's her parents having sex or something like that. So she's like,
Ew.
I'm gonna, like, you guys, she's screaming through the walls, like, you shouldn't be, like, you have a child in the house, whatever. So she goes down to her parents' room with a camera and she starts snapping photos because she sees two figures under sheets with eye holes cut out. And so she snaps photos and she looks at the Polaroid of her photo. In the picture, you can see the sheets, but no feet, right?
Wait, okay. Like so she could see feet, but there's no feet in the Polaroid?
Exactly. Yeah, she could see. So she was like, what? No feet. Now, turns out that Lydia is able to see ghosts, and these are the
No.
ghosts of Adam and Barbara Maitland.
The people that used to live there
Yes,
from the car crash?
this is a haunted house from the couple who died in the car crash.
No.
Yes. So now that she can see them, and like even Adam and Barbara are like, you can see us, And so then they try to explain what they've been doing. They're like, look, we don't want your family to live here. We don't like that you're trying to make all these changes to our house. Like, we want you to leave. Like, we're trying to get you to leave. And so they allow Lydia to come up to the base, or to the attic, because it turns out that locked attic is where they've made as their home base. Even though no one can see them, they've been sticking to the attic, and they just like to lock it as like one kind of safe place in the house for them. So in the attic, there is a small scale model of the entire town of Winter River,
Like
which is
Viserys in Game of Thrones. Just like playing with his little models.
essentially, yeah. So this was like one of Adam's hobbies when he was alive. And like, so you have the whole town there, like you can see like the house and like all this stuff. And there's even like the graveyard where Adam and Barbara have been buried is there as well. So Lydia, while she's up there, comes across a book that's called Handbook for the Recently Deceased. And
Okay.
she takes a look at it and like reads through it really quick. And then we discover, or well, she discovers by reading through this, that she discovers that dead people have like their own like government.
Like
And
bureaucracy?
yes, and that like their own like kind of DMV-esque system. So turns out like every dead person or dead people, if they die together, Adam and Barbara kind of get bunched together, have like a caseworker, and have all of these kind of resources available to them in this handbook to kind of teach them how to be dead and how to be ghosts. And what's something crazy is that everyone who works in the government, like everybody who's a caseworker has to work in the government, all are victims of suicide.
Oh.
So if you kill yourself, you end up in like dead ghost government.
Okay, here's the thing. If I die and I have to go to like the DMV of the death,
yeah.
I'd just rather not exist.
Yeah, like I guess immediately when Adam and Barbara went for the very first time, the first thing they were asked is if they had an appointment. And it took them 3 months to see their caseworker. So, like from their perspective, when they left to go to, to this government building, they left and their house looked one way because the Dietzes had just moved in. By the time they got back, their entire house was renovated. They didn't even recognize where they were. So, all right. So inside the scale, like the life size, or sorry, the model up in the attic, there is another undead, like dead person.
Okay.
And he's kind of like a little bit of a different breed. He's very powerful, right? And no one like he's very powerful, but he has to be summoned.
Hmm.
And so his whole deal
Yeah.
is that he says, like, if you need help
Okay.
getting people out of your house or haunting the living,
Okay.
summon me and I'll
Okay.
help you.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
Like an
Adam and
exterminator kind of.
yes, and so Adam and Barbara consider this, and
Very nice.
so they go and they meet him, and he just is like very aggressive. He's got like kind of cocaine energy. Like he's just not pleasant to be around. So they're kind of like, I think we can handle this by ourselves.
Yeah.
But, like since he's living in their model, like he's obviously trying to stalk them for business. Like that's how they got onto him in the first place, is because he's kind of haunting their area. Like commercials of himself are appearing on the television and like things like that. So
Oh
they're a
God.
little bit like these ghosts are already a little bit haunted by this other guy.
Oh my God, like Sweet James or something, like billboards.
Totally. Yes. So, and they found out from their caseworker that this guy who's like haunting them and following them and trying to get them to like hire him was a former apprentice of hers. And, but like he can't be controlled. So, anyways, we're back to the family. So, the parents have some people in from New York to show off their new house to, because the dad Charles is kind of trying to pitch this town as like a good investment for people, and everyone in New York is like, this is farm as fuck.
Mhm.
So they have them over for dinner of like, look at the renovations we've done, yada yada yada. And so Adam and Barbara think, well, this is a really good opportunity for us to scare them out of here. So when Adam was alive,
Yeah.
his favorite artist was Henry Belafonte. It's
Shake,
Cuban.
shake, shake, Sonora.
Yes, exactly. So when these people from New York are at dinner, it's like 7 of them, including Lydia. Adam and Barbara possess them. He possess everyone except Lydia. They leave Lydia alone because Lydia can see them. And like, I mean, I think that there's like a little bit of like, how I said that they couldn't have kids when they were alive?
Yeah.
I think that there's a part of them that feels, especially for Barbara, feels kind of a maternal,
Oh.
energy towards Lydia.
Yeah.
They don't possess Lydia, they possess everybody else. And they have them, what they end up doing is they end up dancing to Deo by Henry Belafonte. Like
Okay. What is this,
they like
TikTok?
come, yeah, exactly. But this is the 80s. But yes. So girl, this doesn't scare these people. They loved it.
Of course. Of course. Yuppies from New York. Of course.
Yes,
They're
they
like, how
loved
camp?
it. They loved it. So, in a kind of a moment of panic, they summon this guy, that they shouldn't have summoned, to try to get like, what, this didn't work. So they summon this guy, and he kind of does his thing where like, he makes the railing on the stairs disappear, and like he drops like Charles from like the upper level, and he pushes Otho down the stairs, and it's like, and he scares Lydia and stuff. And so luckily Adam and Barbara are able to like, call this guy back and like, and get him to kind of fuck off. But like at that point, Lydia was like, I don't fuck with you guys anymore. Like that was
Oh,
not
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
The parents still stupidly are like, well, that was weird. Like, they got super hurt, but like, you know, our house is haunted. Like we can make money off of this. So,
Oh, God. God.
yeah.
Capitalism.
Yeah. So Lydia, this was hard for her, and she suddenly is feeling suicidal. Remember how I said there was a suicide note, that there's some
Oh,
information about
yeah.
this? So Lydia starts to decide that she wants to commit suicide.
Mm.
And she goes up to the attic, and Adam and Barbara aren't there, but the guy who's living in the model is there. And he gives her the spiel of like, oh, like, this is how you can summon me. And maybe if you summon me, I can help you, um, unalive yourself, basically.
Yeah.
So she's kind of thinking about it. And then Adam and Barbara show up and they're like, don't talk to him. Like, and what are you talking about? Like, don't be suicidal, like all this kind of stuff. So luckily, like they kind of save her from that. But her parents are still like just doing the most, and they invite more kind of big money people from New York, like bigger money people than they
Oh
already
God.
had.
Yeah.
Right. So this like it's just like Charles Boss or something, or one of his biggest investors, but his wife happens to be into the supernatural. So they're like, come and see our haunted ass house. So they have, like, oh, we were all possessed, and here's some pictures of these floating sheets with no feet, yada, yada, yada. And the people from New York are like, we're not impressed.
Mm.
And so, they have Lydia come downstairs and they're like, Lydia, why don't you go and get the ghosts? And Lydia's like, they don't want to come down. Like they don't want to become a parlor trick, because what they don't know is that Adam and Barbara kind of got some shit from her caseworker of like, well, you've proved, like, now all these people who are alive know about the fact that ghosts are real. So you need to get them out of the house now. Like, this isn't okay anymore. So they're thinking, okay, well, we'll just stop doing kind of hauntings and then maybe they'll go away. So remember Otho, the designer?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a comment made about Otho that he just like fucks up everything. Like someone says at one point, like, you can't even change a tire. Like you can't do anything right, which, I mean, to be honest, I can't change a tire either. But Otho at one point got a hold of the handbook for the recently deceased.
Oh no. Okay.
And
Okay.
so, when it seems like this kind of like money opportunity is going downhill, Otho says, well, I have an idea. How about we force them to come down? And Otho
Hmm.
proposes that he's going to host an exorcism. So this isn't good, because I guess from my sources, being exorcised as a ghost is basically like death for the dead,
Oh
like,
God.
you die and you become a ghost, but like if you get exorcised, then you like legit, like your spirit and your soul is just kind of in a void for eternity. So this is not good, right?
Yeah.
But Otho doesn't give a shit, because they want to show off to these big money people in New York that they have ghosts. So they're like, we need something that was close and important to the dead. They find these fucking wedding clothes. They put the wedding clothes on the table, and everyone except Lydia, who like doesn't want to be a part of it, Otho starts rattling off his like exorcist shit. And Adam and Barbara appear in their wedding clothes, and they're like, what the fuck's going on? Like
Yeah.
they have no control over it. So as soon as they appear, they start to wither away. Like they start to
Oh
like get all like
no.
cracked up and withery. And Lydia was like, you have to stop. You have to stop. What are you doing to them? Like everyone is like, what is happening? And Otho is like, I'm sorry. Like I can't stop it. I can't stop it now.
Mhm.
So Lydia's freaking out because she's about to lose, like they're about to lose Adam and Barbara. Like,
Yeah, these are like, she's a teenager. These are like her friends. Like,
yeah, totally. I mean, like I said, Barbara has been kind of taking like a maternal presence to her, because I mean, Lydia's stepmom, Delia, like she's like on lithium and Xanax like every night. Like she's not really she's not a good mother. Her parents in general, not very attentive, right? So, um, she's like, I have to do something. Maybe the man who lives in the model can help with this.
oh yeah. I forgot about him for a second. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So she goes to the small scale model of the town, which at this point has been brought downstairs, because like the Charles was using it to kind of pitch to the big money people, like, look at what a great investment this town is. Wouldn't you know it? I have a model of it, even though like Adam, the ghost, built it. So, and so she goes and she's talking to the haunted guy, the bad guy. And she was like, you have to help them. And he was like, yeah, I could help them. However, first of all, you have to summon me. And second of all, if you want me to help them, I'm going to need something in return.
Right.
I
Yeah.
am going to need you to marry me.
Oh.
So
Okay.
like child bride shit. Because apparently once he gets married, this whole like curse of him only being able to kind of function like with being summoned will go away. And he has like more, like autonomy over his life.
Okay.
Which is questionable if that's a good thing, because like I said, he's not the best guy. So if you summon me and if you marry me, or like, and I save them, you have to marry me, right?
Okay. Okay.
So she's like, I mean, she's watching Adam and Barbara wither away. Like it's getting dire. And so she didn't have a lot of time to fuck around with this. And she says, fine. So she summons him. She says his name 3 times. That's how you summon him. So he shows up, just snaps his fingers, and Adam and Barbara fall out of the air. Exorcism is over. So like that was easy for him. And then he like sends the big money people from New York, literally sends them through the fucking ceiling. Like never, we don't see them again. Who knows where they fell? But like just fires them off. He like traps, or he like sends Otho like out the door or whatever. He traps Delia's parents, or I'm sorry, Lydia's parents in some of Delia's sculptures, because he's an amateur sculptor. Because he's like, okay, cool. Everyone's taken care of. I need witnesses. So traps her parents and changes Lydia's outfit to like this like crazy Victorian like blood red dress, and is like, all right, let's get married. And it's like, oh my God, it's not looking great, because sure, Adam and Barbara have been saved, but like Lydia's about to get married to this like fucking psycho who's
Right. But
dead.
like chic dress, like, in the pro
Oh, very,
column, I'm just
very
saying.
cool. I mean, look, Lydia's style is very cool. Like from the pictures and everything from the sources, like her style was very cool. But so he gets this like weird dead officiant like to show up,
Yeah.
and fortunately this weird ass dead officiant is just taking his motherfucking time. Like he's talking slow, whatever, like, like, do you have the rings? Like all this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's taking forever. In the time that this takes, Lydia tries to say his name again, and he keeps stopping her, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Oh, because if you say it,
if
what's
you
the deal if
say
you
his
say
name again, he'll get kind of, he gets called off, he has to go away.
oh, that's right.
Say his name 3 times, he appears. Say his name is 4th time, he's out. So in this time that it was taking for the marriage to become official, Adam and Barbara are able to kind of come back to normal, And so like right in the nick of time, Barbara gets up and says, Beetlejuice. And she's able to stop him.
Oh my God.
So then he's kind of sent away. And as it stands now, like this is kind of like the agreement that everyone came to is, first of all, they got the house back to normal. Like they took
Okay.
out all the weird New York-y kind of art. They are keeping the fact that Barbara and Adam are ghosts a secret, and everyone just coexists in the house together now.
Oh, I love that. Like a blended I mean, we
A
really are like a
blended family.
tribal thing. You know what I mean? Like we were meant to be,
Yeah.
I really think like bringing up children was meant to be more just
It takes a
than two
village.
people. Yeah, it truly takes a village.
Yeah, and it's a little odd, I guess, because like Adam and Barbara definitely act more like parents to her than her real parents do. But
Sure.
like, who's to say? I mean, we don't have a lot of evidence about
Yeah.
it, and again, like there was no police presence for this at all. Like
Right.
we don't know we don't know what happened to those rich people who got sent away, and we don't know like all the other rich socialites. Like, this was the 80s. They probably just did some like quaaludes, and then nobody believed them anyways. But
Yeah. But honestly, like eat the rich, so it's like kind of okay.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Wow.
fantastic. How fun to share some trash crime with each other. Some true, very true trash crime with each other.
I love that we get together and do this every week and just share trash crimes with each other. And
Yeah, that this is
it's
our platform, and that we,
yeah.
invest in this like very, very popular medium of sharing true crime.
It's the power power of Christ that compels you. The power of Christ. The power of Christ compels you.
Yes. Are
What?
you okay?
Oh my God. Did anything happen to you too?
I felt like a chill, and then I felt like something like came over me. I don't know.
What time is it?
Oh my God, it's like
Oh my
5
God.
It's like an hour.
Yeah.
An hour has just disappeared.
Did we record a podcast?
I don't know. I mean, I have to check the audio file. I don't know.
All right. Well, I guess where can the people find you?
Yeah. They can find me at iconic Erica Curry, or on Instagram, and at TikTok, and you can find me at Gilligal on Twitter. Yeah. What about
Okay.
you, Cass? Where can they find you?
You can find me at Cass Cardenas on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can find me. I do a voice in Subterra season 2. It's another podcast series. You can also find this podcast at Trashy Trashy Pod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Trashy Trashy Podcast at gmail.com, Trashy Trashy Podcast.com. Tell us why you're trash. Send us stories. Gosh, I hope we did some stories this week.
I mean,
But
I'm sorry if we didn't
wow.
put out an episode this week, but as always, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah. And happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. Hey, Cass.
What's going on, girl?
Stay garbage.
You stay garbage, girl.
I will. Bye-bye.